Can you tell me what are the best practices you follow while coding?
Okay, like best practices, probably like you'll have to follow some coding principles actually while you code. So like the solid principles. Like, you should not be like mixing up a lot of stuff while you are coding. You should not be like putting a lot of dependency of one thing over other. Like it should be like loosely coupled. Should not be like very hardly coupled. So like if you are like going to change something, it is like breaking everything. Should have like a good test coverage around everything that you are writing. Your code that you are writing, it should be like based on the interfaces. You should be coding based on your interfaces that you are coding, and
Okay.
probably like should be having like smaller methods. Actually should not be putting everything in single methods. Like single like methods should have their own responsibilities, so create in a way so that can be easily testable, so that even you can follow the test driven development approach to make them like quite easily maintainable, and like should look good actually. uh, what else?
Okay.
Probably, yeah, like single responsibility, like again the open close principles that you follow, like should should not if you're like doing some maintenance or doing some enhancements over your current project, you should code it in a way in the first time that if you are like getting any more things into similar project, you should not be breaking the existing stuff that you already have coded.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So, in which domain you are having experience?
My major experience is into insurance domain. I do have some experience into payroll and telecom domain as well. So insurance and like healthcare, that's where I worked for almost a year. And probably for 2.5 years, I worked around in a payroll and telecom domain.
Okay. Okay. So, can you tell me how concurrent hash map internally works?
Hello?
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So I was asking about concurrent hash map. Have you used concurrent hash map in your project?
Not recently. I've used it in past. Like it uses like hash tables in between, like the concurrent hash map that comes up. It's like a thread safe, so that you have like multiple threads can operate on a single object actually without any kind of like complications. Uh, Probably like you have object actually where which you divide it into like segments actually based on the level, and might probably you cannot like insert null objects into the hash map as a key or a value pair. So that's how like it works, like based on the segments actually. That's the base thing. Like you have like that concurrency level set, and then you like load it initial capacity with some initial capacity probably.
Okay. Okay. So uh, what type of database you have used?
Database, like I have worked on like DB2, starting with DB2, Oracle, SQL, and NoSQL database as well. So NoSQL, I have worked on MongoDB, and the other are the basic Oracle NoSQL SQL databases. You
Okay.
OCRE.
Can you tell me the difference between drop, truncate, and delete?
Drop, like basically uh, a truncate, like truncate only deletes the data of the tables actually. The drop command actually deletes the data, as well as it removes that entire schema actually which is present. And delete basically like so truncate removes all the records. Drop actually removes the whole schema or the structure of the table which is present. And delete, like it kind of removes rows at a particular time, like based on how you are removing it, so based on the identity. so it does not reset everything.
Okay. So uh, what are these one to one, one to many to many relationship mapping in database design?
Okay, so like uh, basically like you have a field actually where you are like kind of mapping it. So one in a table is multiple rows in some another table. So that is something called one to many mapping. So like you have like that those relationships being maintained throughout your tables, like how you are storing your primary key and foreign keys. So you have employee ID here, and then probably in another table you will be having like multiple addresses, like a temporary address and a communication address and some other office address. So for the same row, you have like multiple records coming up in the uh, other table. So like that again, like map to one also, like you like multiple records here, and then you have like single record representing some other place. So like that, those things are mapped, and we use to this the data as well in from the database.
Okay. Say so if there are like in your system you are using JPA, okay, and you are using multiple table in your
Hmm.
database, so how will you handle like
Okay.
concurrent updates, like multiple uh, multiple calls are updating your database, so I mean, or
Hmm.
two users
Okay.
simultaneously trying to update the database. So how do you ensure everything is perfect?
Hmm. So probably one thing is using the transitional addition actually with the calls actually that you are having. So in case of any failures, it handles all those things like either it finishes everything or it just terminates it in case of any failures. In case of like multiple users trying to access like even multiple databases, so databases you can handle based on the application dot properties. You put in like multiple configurations there, and you don't need like the service layer and the repository layer. You call on the subsequent calls actually to which database you want to fetch level of data. And probably for concurrent users, like if there are multiple users who are going to access an institution, like so in my application, how we are doing, we are storing some data into the MongoDB. So we were storing those data based on some unique session IDs actually. So it was a combination of a user ID and session ID. So that like you do not have like any repeated rows or like particular logged in user has access to only what it is accessing to or it is updating to. It is not having access to some other records that were maintained in the database. So based on
Okay.
those unique identifiers, like we try to map them.
So suppose in your project or in your project you have database server which is in some other country, okay, and in some
Mm-hmm.
other time zone. So how do you ensure uh, how do you handle time zone in that case, because suppose you are trying to fetch, you are writing a query where you are trying to fetch
Mm-hmm.
uh, 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 the rows between a particular time, okay,
Mm-hmm.
between particular time means uh, there may be a transaction time column in the table, and you want to fetch the rows which executed exactly between or saved between 2 to 3 pm. So how do you ensure time zone in that situation?
Like basically we have things in the UTC timestamp format, so probably like you don't have to like deal with all those time offsets if you are using the UTC with the timestamps that you are inserting or doing anything, updating the database for or creating anything there. So probably that is something that probably avoids this. Uh,
So
then other like, yeah, please. Hello.
can you set a default time zone for entire application?
I think yes, like you can like entire like if you like have kind of a web application and you want to run it with some default time zone or like some information probably I think you can do that. I haven't done that. Like basically, we use those basic UTC only
Okay.
everywhere while updating and getting those time zones. So I haven't faced that time zone difference issues like anytime. Like in all my projects, like it's having UTC only. So
Okay. So what is this inversion of control?
basically, it is like for it is maintaining your dependencies actually. Kind of you like you are trying to inject the dependencies, and that is where your container comes into picture for storing. So it's like giving the control for creating or like kind of instantiating the beans to the Spring IOC container, and probably then you do kind of the configurations there. So that is the basic like inversion of control. Like it converts your flows actually to some traditional flows.
Okay. So suppose you are getting an error called application context is not loading in
Mm-hmm.
runtime. So what do you understand by that?
Mm, application
I
like
mean,
it's not configured properly.
yeah, what first things or thing or things comes to your mind?
Mm, like if you are not kind of like mapping it properly in your traditional web.xml projects, then it's not loaded properly. So it gives you those fail to load application context errors in those situations. So that is something like you have like you have those context configuration being managed. So you have those XML files there, and then it says like if it is not able to identify that fully like the class path location, then it gives you that error. Like if you're not mapping it properly there.
Okay, and suppose you are also getting this error with the application context not loading. You are getting error or exception called unsatisfied dependencies in exception. Then what comes to your mind?
Mm, unsatisfied dependency. I think it's not like properly the bean like you like trying to use it. It's not properly injected. Maybe that could be the reason.
Okay.
Uh, like you have those component scans are being done at the start actually, and then you are trying to like in the your base packages if you are not like having those things properly, it may give you that you have not added those dependency properly, and then you are getting that error
Okay.
at the startup or boot up of your application.
So what is a stream?
Stream in Java, it is basically like you have a like lot of data, lot of collections actually, and then you want to iterate over them. You want to process them, so you do it via streams in Java 8, and then you put multiple operations over it, and then you collect it as output, like using the lambda expressions, using the intermediate and terminal operations that are supported by the stream API.
Okay. And how it is different from collection?
So collection, like you have to do like things one by one. Like if you are having stream, actually it puts all the data and it applies like if you are doing some filter or any operation over that stream of data, it is like throwing out all the data at the same go, and then you are like doing collectively you are doing it. So if you are doing any functions over it, you again the output is like stream only till you don't do a terminal operation there and then you collect it out. In case of collections, you have to like manually iterate over it or manually do any kind of looping over them to process them. You cannot like you do not have that option of directly pushing the whole data and put some operations over it.
Okay. Okay, so when we say that the stream does not, I mean collection, we are storing the elements. I mean it is having a storage, and in stream we are not having any kind of storage. We are not storing element. We just iterate them or perform some operations on them. It is designed like that way. So what do you, I mean, what is the meaning of not storing element in stream?
So
Is it
stream
in the
like
memory?
basically is like so yeah, it's in the memory, but then what happens is like when you are doing some operation on a stream, it does not modify the original source actually. It simply produces you some other output, any result actually. And then like you have to create some another stream, some another collections actually to collect it out. You are not modifying the original source.
Okay.
Unlike like collections where you have like limited size actually, and then you iterate over them.
Okay. And what is parallel stream?
A parallel stream is like if you are like trying to do a collection dot parallel stream, then you're trying to break up that big stream into smaller streams and then push that data simultaneously, so that you will have like the collective data comes up. So you have a lot of transactions, and you do not want to do it sequentially one by one. You want to do them parallelly, like all at same go. So you break it down into smaller streams and then you carry out the transactions.
Okay. So can you tell me any intermediate method while using stream? Any name a few.
Filter, map, flat maps. These are the basic ones that you use for all the intermediate operations.
So if we are using filter, then what type of predicate it accepts?
It's a like it predicate it, so it returns you a boolean actually.
Okay.
So you just it's a functional interface, the predicate that you are using with. So predicate is the functional interface that you use with the filter, and then in the output you get a boolean, like unlike the consumer or supplier functional interface where you get some data or you supply some data. Here you are getting a boolean value. So you are passing in some conditions, and based on that you are getting okay whether it's true or false. Like so if you see that predicate functional interface, we have a boolean method there, apply t, and then you are passing that the expression, the whole expression into that method, which gives you the result.
Okay. Okay. So if a method, any method, throws uh, null pointer exception or file not found exception.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. uh, and this class is a super class. Now we have a subclass also, and in subclass
Mm-hmm.
we are overriding that same method, and in subclass method we are trying to throw IO exception. So is that fine
Okay.
or is that something wrong here?
So whenever like you are having the parent-child relationship, in case of exceptions like the overridden methods, you should follow the exception hierarchy. So a child class should not be throwing any exceptions which is on a higher hierarchy compared to its parent class.
Okay.
So that's the thing you have to follow. So another exception is kind of a runtime exception. So
So I mean, in this, in the case which I gave to you, in this case, uh, do
mhm.
we get a like compile time error or runtime exception, anything, compile time, runtime error?
Okay, so whenever like I think the situation is not met, I think we get a compile time error for overrunning because the basic like overriding rules are not being followed.
Okay. So what do you think, in this scenario it is followed or not? Yeah, so the superclass method is throwing file not found, and
Super
subclass
class is
method is
throwing
throwing
runtime. Okay.
IO exception.
IO and file not. mm, Just thinking like how they falls in the hierarchy. So file not found is a runtime exception actually. Uh, it will give error actually. It
Yeah.
will
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Let's come to
Mhm.
some other thing. uh, in like in Java 8, they introduced default method in interfaces. Okay, so we have two interfaces.
Right,
They are
right.
having two identical default methods, and we have a class which is implementing both these interfaces. So how do you ensure, so suppose there are two classes, sorry, interfaces A and B. Okay, with the same method, default
Mm-hmm.
methods, try. So how, if you want to use the default method of A in class which is extending implementing both these interfaces, how do you ensure you are able to call that default method of A, try default try method of A?
In both the interfaces, is it?
Sorry,
You are
yeah,
you are
it is in
implementing
both the
both the interfaces.
yeah, yeah, it, this try method is default method in both the interfaces, and now we have a main class in which we are implementing these two interfaces.
Okay, and then you want to use it from class A.
Yeah, any
We
name you can
can
give the.
can we create it as like a static
No, no,
like
they are
can we
default
call
method.
the static method?
Sorry,
Okay, default methods only.
yeah, they are default
So
methods.
they both exactly same like the return type, the number of parameters,
Everything,
everything is same, right?
everything is same. They are just copy pasted.
Okay. So, you need first like interface A should implement interface B, and then you should be using it in your child classes. If you want to use it like that, create an object of A and then you call it. Like because if try to implement both interfaces and they have same method, then it's like in like multiple inheritance, which is like not supported. So
Okay.
hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so in collection we have array list. Uh, there are other collections members as well, like linked list. So
Mhm.
in which scenario you will use linked list over array list?
Okay. So like if you are like so linked list actually it uses internally it's a kind of a implement double linked list actually. So you do not need to the memory. So if you actually have to do a lot of traversing of the data, then you should go link list. So manipulating with the linked list takes like time actually, because
Okay.
like in the array list, it's you enter it using a dynamic array, and then you need to shift the bits actually when you try to insert at some place, or if you want to delete from a particular place. So that's where like it becomes slow. So if you want to do those operations, you can go with linked list.
Okay.
Depends like how what are the major operations we are trying to implement. So
Okay, so suppose if we have a method which iterates over a collection, okay, any collection,
mhm.
and we want to remove certain elements from the same collection,
Okay.
and inside that loop we are trying to create a criteria. If it is matched, then we will remove the element from the collection. So how do we like code this
Mm.
scenario?
So you want to like you have a list probably, and based on some criteria, you want to remove some of the elements out of that list. Is it
Yeah,
right? So for that, you have the remove method present it. So you can call that remove method directly what you actually want to remove. And even in the Java, it also you can put those streams like the election stream dot remove if, and then in bracket you're putting some conditions. If the condition is meeting, then you're like moving those rows, and then you can have some terminal operations to collect the data.
yeah. So if we directly use the remove method, then it will throw this concurrent modification
Mm.
exception. So either ways use Java 8, and or one more way is use, if we are using not using Java 8, then you can also use iterator. So iterator won't throw concurrent I
Correct.
mean iterator
Uh, uh,
remove method
Right.
won't throw concurrent modification exception, because
Okay.
it
Yeah.
knows that you are iterating the same element.
Yes. Yes. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So uh, like there are hash code method, okay, and in a in a class we are overriding hash code method for, and we are explicitly returning 0 in that hash code method, okay. So how this
Mhm.
will impact the functionality of our application means, we have a class, and
So.
in class whenever
Mhm.
we are overriding hash code method, and we are returning 0 every time.
Okay. So returning an integer that usually does, like same integer every time.
Your voice is breaking.
Hello.
Hello, your voice is breaking.
So I'm asking like, can you hear me better now?
Yeah,
Okay. So what I was asking is like, so you are overriding the hash code method, and
yeah,
you are not returning the random integers. You are every time returning some like zero, like or some
yeah,
any other integer. You're just returning it out.
yeah,
So because usually what happens like to you say like two collections are equal based on the hash codes actually the return. So if they are trying to return a zero, uh, like you can do that, but it will cause like many collisions actually inside your hash table, like because you don't know which value need to be fetched. Usually when you are like trying to get data out of those buckets using the hash code values, you use that equals and hash code to get out the data based on the keys. But here in this case, if this hash code is returning zero every time, then you don't know what data you need to return. So it will result in collisions.
Okay. What do you understand by concurrency?
Concurrency is basically like you have like multiple threads actually working. So you want to actually execute them in parallel, like so ability usually like you are running some several programs or some parts like parts of program in parallel. So it enables you to achieve it, performance and the throughput using those capabilities that you have built inside using this concurrency. Earlier, like you have a thread pool and then you'll have to wait for your turn to execute it. But after this concurrency, the concurrent functions that come into picture, you can actually use them in parallel and then you can get a desired output with good performance.
Okay. Okay, so what do you understand by facade design pattern?
Facade. I think we were using it for, so it's a kind of a structural pattern actually. Uh, you kind of hide the complex behavior that is residing in the system. So you're just providing some simplified interface to the client in the subsystem, and you hide those complexities outside. So having some abstract factory, and you are there having some soap services actually, and so it kind of provides covering actually between the client and the systems that you have.
Okay.
And if you basically seeing it when you want to provide some simple interface to your clients, or there are like multiple dependencies that exist between your system and implementation. So that's where kind of use it.
Okay. What is atomic integer class?
I think I used it.
Okay. Okay, no problem. So suppose you have to uh, uh, a design a system like Uber. So how do you design it? I
Okay.
mean, what are the things you will take care, perform, and implement?
So like you first of all you'll have to think about at high level. Okay, what are the different users that are trying to access our application? So there will be like there will be cab drivers, there will be customers, and there will be some business teams actually that will be the customer support team kind of. You will have really built out a system actually where you are like kind of accessing the locations of the people. You are trying to access all the nearby location. You need to build in a functionality where you are calculating the distance, showing using the Google Maps. You are trying to show them the nearest routes actually, how to reach from one position to another, and booking the appointments, like booking those. So provide them with the nearby availabilities, and you give them the flexibility to select the probably like different different varieties of the car in the system that you have, and then you let it book it. There will be like the information that gets sent to the system. So you will be having kind of transaction servers there, which actually responds back and it updates to both the users, the customer who is trying to book it and the cab driver who is actually like waiting for some bookings actually. So you need to give those confirmations as well. So kind of you need to build that intelligence into like you search around the nearest cab drivers, and then you actually allocate the driver based on need to a particular user. So the nearest one, or probably like the based on the routes actually, like where are you looking for, and then you also have to search around the whole path. Like when you are calculating the distance, you will also have to show them the time that is required. So based on the like how the traffic area and all those things is. So basically it will be like a location based system that you'll have to build it up, and then you have to integrate with some payment gateway where you can like put in this data.
Okay. Okay. So I think I have done from my side. Do you have any questions for me?